Welcome. As we begin, please turn off or silence any electronic devices that may disturb the service. I invite you to enjoy the chapel in the back of the sanctuary and note joys and concerns in the book there. If you have little ones, we have a nursery downstairs, and after our service, I invite you all downstairs to enjoy hospitality and to greet one another. Also, I believe that we are streaming our service downstairs in the nursery as well, if you do need to go down there. Finally, please note the announcements in your order of service with the many ways to be engaged in this vibrant community.
Hello, my name is Phil Quigley, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears. You are welcome here. If you come here with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands, you are welcome here.
The Persian poet Rumi challenges us. Come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. And we come from rich heritages of liturgy and pomp. We come from burning legacies of angry gods and threats of hellfire. We come just as we are. We come with exuberant and joyful hearts, eager to witness to others. We come bereft of the goodness of life, wondering, hesitant. We come just as we are. We come in the bloom of youth, ready to explore new truths. We come ready to sit apart from our children and be nourished for an hour. We come with gray in our hair and experiences to share. We come just as we are. We come to the place we never knew before was home. We come to the place that has been home for most of our lives. We come just as we are to join our brothers and sisters as members of one family in this beloved home, our hands and hearts outstretched. Come, yet again come. Unitarian Universalists love to eat. That was the first thing I learned when I started coming. We may even like to eat more than Mormons do. I know, it shocks me too. But as much as we love to eat, we also, as one of our 7 principles says, love the earth and everything in it. And we want to do right and to treat our connectedness to all that is around us with the respect and the honor that it deserves. In 2011, the Unitarian Universalist Association issued a statement of conscience on ethical eating and addresses both how we eat, how our politics affect the way other people can eat, among many other things. Now, also as Unitarian Universalists, we come from many, many different walks of life, and our situations are all different. And we have to take those statements and interpret them in the way that best fits with both our individual consciousness and with our life circumstances. So we are very fortunate today to be able to hear from several of our congregation members as they explain a little bit about how they interpret the statement of conscience on ethical eating and how they best apply it to their lives. We are now going to hear from David Lane. He will be playing Banana Pancakes.
So when Shannon originally got a hold of me, I was thinking, oh man, what am I going to play for eating? And a little devil popped up on my shoulder and said, how about Cheeseburger in Paradise? That'll work.
Oh, please rise for the chalice.
Please join us as we say our chalice lighting words. We
Light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of
the month. And so do you know what that means here at South Valley? Anybody got a guess? Anybody? Oh, what's your guess? It's winter. Yes, it is winter. For sure it is winter, and it doesn't seem to ever want to stop. Simeon, what do you think? I'll give you a clue. Junior high and high school classes don't do it, but the rest of the classes do. Aha, Landon. Oh, first Sunday is next week. That's a good one. Kari? You know, you hang out with Liz. What is it?
Children's Chapel.
That's right. Today is Children's Chapel, which means that all of you who are in kindergarten through 5th grade, basically, come down and hang out with me for the next hour and learn about the third principle. Well, you know, I was so wrapped up in planning about the third principle, about talking about how we learn and grow together, that I didn't realize that I was on the program to do the story for all ages today. I found that out when I picked up a program about 12 minutes ago. Wow. So, I had to rack my brain really quickly for a story I could tell you about today's topic. And today's topic is about ethical eating. Do any of you know what the word ethical means? I know, it's kind of a big word. Ethics are the principles that guide your decisions. So they're your moral compass. Have you heard of your moral compass? I know. Well, maybe we'll talk about that in Children's Chapel. I think that would be a good thing to talk about. So that's what the adults are talking about upstairs. And most of the adults, well, I don't know, some of the adults know that this is a topic that is very close to my heart. And I thought maybe I'd tell you a story about that is part of the reason I feel the way I do. Ready. And what Grandma's kitchen, they had this animal on the table. Many years passed. Basically, what it meant, if I felt sad, is that I really just chose chicken nuggets over anything else, because then I didn't have to think about, what part of the elk it came from. So I wanted to share that story with you, because it was one of my first experiences with authority. Authority is the word of the month that we're talking about. I couldn't understand. The biggest authority in my life was something called the 10 Commandments. At least that's what I was told. And the very first one was, thou shalt not kill. And I couldn't quite figure out. I was like, Dad, I don't get it. And he's like, no, it's okay to kill for sustenance and because we care about the animals. So I kind of forgot about it for a long time. But then when I was a little bit older, I got even more into questioning authority, and that's the rest. We can talk about that story later. But for now, we're going to head downstairs for Children's Chapel and talk about how we learn and grow together.
Sing us out.
One way that we at South South Valley support our community is to share our Sunday morning offerings. Today, we will share our offering with Sister Song. Sister Song is a network of grassroots organizations devoted to securing reproductive justice for women of color. Please see me in saying the words printed in the order of service for our offering. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts.
Statement on conscience on the heart. Consumers, farmers, and all of those involved with food production and distribution. Environmental justice includes the equitable distribution of both environmental burdens and benefits for populations of residents and workers. Marginalized people have often been able to find housing or work in the areas exposed to environmental pollutants with consequent negative health and quality of life effects. As a Unitarian Universalist, we are called to address the relationship with food. Our principles call for recognition of respect for the other as we search freely make a variety of individual choices about food. Ethical eating is the application of our principles and our values in health and sustainability in the production of food we raise and purchase.
All of our lives, we're told how to eat. As children, we're told, eat your broccoli, clean your plate. And then it goes on. Don't eat too much, you'll get fat. Watch out for saturated fats. Cut back on the salt. Don't eat sugar. Red meat will give you cancer. And so on and so on. Rules. We bring to the task of deciding the ethics of eating. I think the first thing to ask is, what is ethical? What makes something anything? So if God tells you sin, dissent of rules from authority, figuring it out. The use of with food, it's easy to the ontological rules. Tell us the website section on ethical eating. It starts with the deontological, the 7 principles. We should respect other people and respect the environment. We should take care of the earth. It starts with that. Then what they do is follow the food chain. As in the reading, it talked about everyone involved with the food chain should be treated fairly and paid well. Chemicals should not be used that are unhealthy or that damage the environment. Food should be eaten locally whenever possible so as to reduce the carbon footprint. All of these are ethical issues. But let's look at one aspect of the ethics of eating. Should we eat meat? That became a hot topic on our listserv a while ago and may have stimulated interest in this discussion today. In the interest of full disclosure, I must add that one of the reasons that I eat meat is that I have an autoimmune disorder, Crohn's disease, so I have trouble eating or handling large amounts of fiber or carbohydrates. Others have other disorders that produce dietary restrictions for them. So it's always a risky business to judge other people for what they eat. We often don't know what all of the reasons are. So now, our question is, can a case be made that it is moral to eat meat? To start, there are no rules from authority. No edict from on high that, at least not in the United States, that you must eat or must not eat meat. So the deontological approach won't work, and we have to move on to the ontological, the use of reason to find a guideline. To me, there are 2 relevant facts that bear on the situation. The first relevant fact is that the production of meat is something that has a costly impact on the Earth's ecology. The most efficient way to produce meat with poultry uses 2 units of plants to produce 1 unit of meat. More, with beef being by far the costliest. The second relevant fact is that humans have a digestive system of an omnivore, an animal that eats plants and meat. It is a different kind of digestive system from that of a plant eater, an herbivore. It is true that if we study about different nutrient requirements, we can adjust our diet to go without meat. But the basic physical setup we're given at birth is that of an omnivore. Given a choice, primates will eat meat because we're all omnivores. To me, that seems like a relevant fact. A related fact comes from the field of epigenetics. Epigenetics has to do with how the environment affects the way our genes are expressed. It is believed that in early human development, cooperative hunting for meat influenced how our brains developed. The eating of meat also allowed for the development of our large brain capacity. And finally, studies show that when both the mother and the baby have a diet that includes meat and fat, then the children are healthier and have higher IQs. In a book by Lana Asprey, The Better Baby Book, she reviews thoroughly the literature about this. It is certainly true that meat is a concentrated form of nutrition. And when you think that our brains are made up largely of fat and protein, it makes sense. So in deciding the ethics of eating meat, one of the two relevant facts, our omnivorous nature, pulls us in one direction. The other relevant fact, the damage to the earth, pulls us in the other direction. I resolve those pulls this way. There are a long list of things I can do for the environment, more than anyone could possibly still do and have a reasonable quality of life. Veganism is one of the things, but it is not one that I will be checking off my list of things to do for the planet. There are many other things I can and will do. Having a meat-free diet is just not one of them. One last issue to look at. Why do we even ask the question of whether it is ethical to eat meat? There are ethical issues about how animals are raised and treated, valid ethical issues. But beyond that, I can't help but wonder if it is the killing of a sentient animal that is disturbing and provokes us to question the ethics of eating meat. There are many ways to respond to that, including that on this planet, death is a part of the life cycle. Another way to put it is that death begets life. But I'd like to add one last thing, and this may be controversial. I think that if we reject a behavior that is a natural part of us at a primal level, in our DNA, if we say that behavior is unethical, bad, and wrong, then we are denying a part of our nature, a part of who we are as animals, as human beings. Like many things in life, there is a balance. Take sex, for example. We have a sexual need, but we also have a social need to act in a way that is acceptable to others. So we maintain a dynamic balance between the two needs throughout life. Our nature is to eat meat, but we also have a need to respect the planet and other lives. So we maintain a dynamic balance through life. I am by no means saying that the only reasonable choice is to eat meat. I'm just saying that it cannot be unethical to make that choice. So that's my opinion. Some others will disagree with me. And that's what makes Unitarianism fun.
I'm Laurel Wright Theory, in case you're wondering how to pronounce that. Rhymes with theory. I'm going to talk about vegan diet. Vegan diet is an effective and easy way to ethical eating. In my talk, I'm going to follow very closely the main points of the statement of conscience. I'll begin by talking about problems caused by an animal food diet and then share the benefits of being vegan. The problems caused by meat production. Number one, it wastes resources. It takes 2,500 gallons of water, 12 pounds of grain, 35 pounds of topsoil, and the energy equivalent of 1 gallon of gasoline to produce 1 pound of beef. If Americans reduced their intake of meat by nearly 10%, 100 million people could be fed using the land, water, and energy that would be freed up from growing livestock feed. Number two, pain and suffering is routine in animal agriculture. Branding, castrating, dehorning, debeaking, tail docking, and clipping the teeth and beaks of animals are usually performed without anesthesia. Stunning of animals before slaughter fails in 5 to 10% of cases, leaving the animals to suffer intense pain while they are being butchered. Number three, it contaminates the environment. Manure from feedlot operations contaminates aquifer and surface waters. Nitrous oxide and methane increases greenhouse gas production. Soil is contaminated with heavy metals. Acid rain is created and forests are damaged from ammonia emissions. A 2006 UN report said that cattle rearing generates more global warming greenhouse gases than transportation. Number 4, meat packing plants and human rights. Animal slaughter and meat packing are difficult, dirty jobs. Workplace hazards include high speed, cutting in close quarters, which results in injuries, and cumulative stress disorders from repetitive motions. The sector employs a disproportionate number of Black and Latino workers, particularly women. Some of these workers are undocumented, and so a lot of them don't know their rights. This leads to fear of reporting injuries, fear of retaliation, sexual harassment, and even a lack of bathroom breaks. Eating a vegan diet conserves resources in the environment and completely bypasses the pain and suffering of animals. Now I'm going to talk about human health. A vegan diet reduces the risks of obesity, heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, various types of cancers, and kidney disease. It also helps prevent macular degeneration, cataracts, arthritis, and osteoporosis. It helps with BMI, healthy skin and hair, lessening of allergies and migraines, and the reduction of body odor. Number 2, overuse of antibiotics and antibiotic resistance. Because of the cramped, crowded feedlots, animals easily become ill. To prevent this, they are routinely given antibiotics. This creates antibiotic resistance in humans and has led to superbugs that are very difficult to treat. Number 3, world hunger. Many, many more people can be fed by grain production than by meat production. Isn't being vegan difficult? In short, a pain in the butt? Number 1, is veganism expensive? No, in a word. While there are plenty of non-vegans ready to tell you otherwise, this is largely due to the myth that vegans are eating processed soy versions of what everyone else eats. In fact, vegans live mainly on beans, whole grains, pasta, fruits, and vegetables, the cheapest ingredients on earth. High costs are more truly associated with trendy health foods, which are not necessary for plant-based living. Buying staples from bulk bins is, especially if you reuse your own plastic bags like I do. I just bring a pack of them with me to the store and I just reuse them until they fall apart. So that's cutting down the pollution, plastic pollution. What about eating in restaurants? It's a very rare restaurant these days that doesn't have a vegetarian option. Asking them to hold the cheese, if it's in the dish, is usually a piece of cake. I've never found a chef unwilling to alter existing choices or just to make something up. Restaurants want to please their customers and keep their business. What if you have non-vegan family members? If some family members are really committed meat eaters, then there may be a lot of parallel cooking going on. But the truth is that even they would benefit from eating vegan food part of the time. If you think about it, meat eaters can eat vegan food with no problem. Sorry, most of the time. So having vegan meals at home and letting the meat eaters obtain their own food outside the home can work very well. Some people say, I know people who feel unhealthy on a vegan diet. I found an article that said that people who convert to a vegan diet for ethical reasons alone go back to eating meat in 75% of cases. The problem seems to be that when some people go vegan, all they do is eliminate animal food and keep eating everything else that they ate before. Fritos and Mountain Dew are vegan, but they're not a balanced diet. Being vegan should go hand in hand with a commitment to eating a healthy, minimally processed diet. What about all the time that you need to spend cooking? I honestly don't think I spend more time cooking than anyone else. 2 or 3 times a week, I make food that takes longer to cook in batches, which lasts several days. Then I add fruits, cooked vegetables, and salads on a daily basis. Once you get used to cooking this way, it's a breeze. What about protein? When I started my vegetarian diet in 1969, people thought I was nuts. Where do you get your protein? I was often asked. Years of brainwashing in school by the 4 food groups, sponsored for the most part by the beef and dairy industries, led people to believe that getting enough protein was impossible without meat. Modern science tells us that eating the standard American diet gives a person twice as much protein as they need, which in turn can create a host of health problems. It's quite easy to get plenty of protein on a vegan diet. In fact, the only way to not get enough protein is to eat mostly junk food. I raised 2 daughters on a vegetarian diet. They are currently very healthy and very smart and didn't suffer any ill effects at all, so I believe it can be done. My conclusion, this is not a black or white world. While being completely vegan is a good way to be an ethical eater, those who don't choose to do so can still make a big difference. Cutting out animal products even 1 day a week means less harm is done. The less animal food we eat, the more we help ourselves and create a positive influence on the world.
Every aspect of our lives is, in a sense, a vote for the kind of world we want to live in. Francis Moore Lappé. When Shannon asked me to speak today on ethical eating, I instantly felt very nervous. Not the public speaking part, but the having to face myself part and to face my ideals and actions part. My relationship with food has been a struggle throughout most of my life for all kinds of reasons, and adherence to my own eating ideals have waxed and waned over the years. I knew I was due for further research and self-reflection. During the recent South Valley News List conversation on the topic, I realized I hadn't even read the UUA's 2011 Statement of Conscience. So as I told Shannon I would participate today, deep down, I hoped the Statement of Conscience would not invalidate the way I think about and consume food. I did read it the other day and was quite relieved to feel affirmed. And so I consider myself a conscientious omnivore. I accept the fact that humans evolved eating meat and plants, and I eat both. However, I'm very aware that I am privileged to be a middle-class citizen living in this country of plenty, and I know that I have many food choices easily available to me. I can afford to consume protein from a number of sources, eat fresh vegetables every day, and I am fortunate to have a backyard where my family can grow some of our own organic food, vegetables, fruits, eggs, and honey. When I choose to eat meat, ideally I want that animal to have been treated humanely, allowed to walk around, see the sunlight, and have been fed a natural diet. I find ethical eating to be an incredibly complex topic with many facets that have affected my ideals and actions over time. I have sifted through many of these this week, and today will categorize my driving motivations into 3 categories. 1, concern for the earth, which encompasses the many impacts our food production has on our environment and the many beings we share our planet with. 2, realization that big business and consumerism has changed the way we eat in this country so much, and it has had significant impacts on human health and behavior. And I'm sad to see that it's quickly spreading across the globe, even to developing countries. And the 3rd category is concern for impacts on farm, food production, and food service workers. Jumbling all of these concerns together, my ideals are to eat relatively low on the food chain from sources that implement ethical farming practices, eat meat sparingly and from sources that treat livestock humanely, obtain foods from sources that are close to home to reduce carbon footprint of transportation, and to support local pharmacies and their businesses. Conscious of where my food comes from results in a spiritual awareness that makes me feel connected with our interdependent web of all existence. And my consciousness stems from a number of sources and experiences throughout my life. The biggest shift for me occurred back in 1985. Rodrigo and I were newlyweds, and we had received a cookbook as a wedding gift titled 100 Ways to Prepare Hamburger. And being on a tight budget, we used it a lot. Then we came upon a little paperback book titled Diet for a Small Planet, written by Francis Moore Lappé. and the way I thought about food changed forever. I've since learned that this was the first major book to explain the impacts of meat production on our Earth and impact on global food scarcity. Environmental costs of meat production were outlined in this book, and beef was presented as the biggest consumer of resources by a long shot. Consumer of water and energy. I learned that if every American ate just one less hamburger a week, I can't remember the number, but a huge amount of water and energy could be saved. And so, against the tide of our upbringing, which it came pains in the butt to our families when we would eat with them, we stopped eating red meat for many years. I looked up some more current numbers concerning environmental impacts of food production. The Environmental Working Group, a nonprofit organization, has plotted full life cycle greenhouse gas emissions from common proteins and vegetables. These estimates include feed production, manure generation, processing, transport, waste disposal, and more. Lamb and beef have by far the biggest impacts, followed by cheese, pork, farmed salmon, and turkey. Let's see, and then, I can't remember what it was, writing these numbers. And then they also plot, beans, lentils, nuts, milk, products, and tofu all along, and they're all fairly comparably lower, but those first two red meats are substantially higher. So according to this environmental working group, eating one less hamburger a week is equivalent to taking your car off the road for 320 miles. That's over a year period. And if everyone in the US ate no meat or cheese just one day a week for 1 year, it would be like not driving 91 billion miles. Meat production also costs our water supplies. Using water footprint numbers from the USGS, I calculated that if everyone in the US ate one less hamburger per week, 7.73 quadrillion gallons of water would be saved over a 1 year period. And it is predicted that our planet will not be able to sustain the rate of meat consumption that our country has right now, or the Western world. The meat consumption has gone up in the last 150, 200 years. And if it wouldn't work to have all of the billions of people in the world, eating meat at that rate, the Earth wouldn't be able to sustain that. So learning and appreciating where our food comes from is an ideal that we strive for in our family. Closest to home, we grow a vegetable garden, and Rodrigo keeps 11 chickens and 2 to 3 beehives in our backyard. Rodrigo was particularly idealistic and wanting an authentic experience, planned to harvest, meaning slaughter, and consume our chickens as they stopped laying. Though his first chance occurred much sooner than expected, when at 5 months old, it became apparent that one of the chickens was a rooster, which would not be tolerated in our neighborhood, and he'd already talked to our neighbors and told them he was getting the chickens and promised not to have a rooster and whatnot. So, a few days, so he didn't anticipate having to do this so soon, and a few days later, when no one else was home, Rodrigo made a big pot of chicken soup. I managed an obligatory taste and stopped eating meat altogether for a number of months afterward. I felt like if I wasn't willing to actually slaughter that chicken myself and eat it, that I felt uncomfortable expecting Rodrigo to do that for me, and then kind of extending that to, gosh, do I really expect, the meat production industry to do all that for me, and I can't see it, and a chicken McNugget, like as mentioned, you don't even see that it's really an animal, and am I really just avoiding facing the fact that I'm eating, an animal? So, for some months I refrained from meat, and a trip to a developing country also helped me do that, because I had seen a slaughtering of a goat firsthand, and there was nothing really inhumane about it, except for I just had never seen that, and just seeing how they hang meat in the markets, in the open air without refrigeration, and so I was having a hard time eating meat. And then Thanksgiving came along, and I had a little bit of turkey, and slowly kind of got back into eating some meats. So, where are we? Eating foods from as close to home as possible is something we strive to do. In our global economy, food in the grocery store is shipped to us from all over the world. Eating fresh produce in season and paying attention to where apples were grown, whether from New Zealand or from Washington, we try to notice that and try to minimize, our impacts by choosing things that are close to home and actually not eating some things when they're not in season on this continent, at least. Rodrigo and I participated in the Utah Eat Local Week in September of 2014. And even though it was harvest season, it turned out to be much more challenging than I had imagined to eat only foods produced within 250 miles of our home. But we did eat well, and we learned a lot. I think this would be a fun thing to do together as a community. Now, putting on my Social Action Council hat, I have some ideas that I wanted to mention today that we might want to pursue as a community. We could explore this topic together. We could hold discussion groups on ethical eating, read books together, share ideas. I brought a couple of books that we think might be good starters, and perhaps we could have a Monday menu discussion group in the springtime. I'll have those downstairs at the Happenings Hub afterward if anyone wants to come and see those. I think we should support our community-supported agriculture, our farmers that are participating in those programs. And an open house will be held on March 2nd at Wheeler Farm, where we can meet farmers and learn about their offerings. And this is also when you sign up early for a CSA, the Community Supported Agriculture. What you do is you pay the farmer maybe $200 for the season, or whatever it is, they're all different. And then weekly, most of them are weekly, you get a shipment of, or you pick up from a central station, a box of fresh vegetables, whatever was ripe at that time of year for that farmer, so that you're investing in the practice of the farming, and they use that money to get things going, buy seeds and everything. And then we also share some of the risks, so that if there's not enough water, then some of the crops might not come to be. So it's really kind of a fun way to be more connected to exactly where our food is coming from. So, and I've got a flyer downstairs at Happenings Hub about that meeting. We could grow a vegetable garden in the space behind our church, and I know that we did that some years ago, and that's something, if there was enough energy, we could try to do. I know that the In-Between, which is a hospice for homeless that we partnered with recently, is looking for a group to help plan, plant, and care for a garden on their property. They have quite a bit of property. They've had someone offer to donate garden boxes, 5 garden boxes, and soil to go in those, and they're looking for a group to plan and then plant, and so for vegetables that they can use for their meals, or if there's leftover for their neighbors. That sounds like a really fun project. So talk to me if you're interested in that, because I'm interested, but I don't want to do it by myself, so if I can at least get 2 or 3 other people excited about that, could be a fun project. We could arrange tours of local farms and local dairies and ranches to learn about their practices and perhaps affect their practices by expressing our concerns about ethical practices. We have been selling Fair Trade Plus Cafe Justo coffee downstairs for some years now, and this is one of our ways to help. It's to help some Mexican farmers. They have a co-op, and they were able to get a loan for a $20,000 roaster. And apparently, that's a really expensive piece of equipment for them. And they had always been selling their green beans to big companies that would then roast and package and make all the profit. But they would be paid very little for just the green beans that they're selling them. So this is their opportunity to be able to receive those profits themselves, and so they have a roaster and they do the packaging and everything, and so that's what I'm usually the one down there selling that. There's a package of it right there. So I would encourage that. There's a few packages left right now, and then I'll be making another order soon. So, so that's one more way that we can make a difference, I think. So if you're interested in any of those community together ideas, please come talk to me. I'd like to find out where the energy is, and it would be really fun to do that together. I'd like to close with another quote from Francis Moore Lappé, who wrote The Diet for a Small Planet. We're just a drop in the bucket, and that's meaningless. But, we say, no, wait a minute. If you have a bucket, those raindrops fill it up very fast. Being a drop in the bucket is magnificent. The problem is we cannot see the bucket. Our work is helping people see that there is a bucket. There are all these people all over the world who are creating this bucket of hope. And so our drops are incredibly significant.
Last the best golf game, right? I'm Sherry Lund, and generally I'm in the high school class, and I don't get to see all of you each Sunday. So, hello. I'm a vegan. Haven't always been a vegan. Wish I'd become a vegan sooner. I grew up in a meat and potatoes family, a family that went camping, hunting, fishing. We ate what my father shot and killed. Still, I was able to grow up with a loving heart and a tender spot for all animals. I raised my own family the same way, minus the hunting. We do what we know, right? That is until spring of 2010, when a group of us took the South Valley youth on a week-long humanitarian trip to the Navajo Indian Reservation to help with the Adopt a Native Elder program. On one of the stops we made to the Best Friends Animal Sanctuary in Kanab, we had the opportunity to see a lot of the animals and hear a lecture about the pigs, hear about how smart they are and how unhealthy they were to eat, and so on. Well, right then and there, one of our youngest youths decided to become vegetarian. And honestly, I didn't think much about it until we saw him and his family at the Pride Festival. And I asked him, so how's that vegetarian thing going for you? And he said, great. He said, in fact, I've convinced my entire family to become vegetarian. And I thought about that, and I thought about his commitment, and I thought, you know, if he can do it, I can do it too. So I said to Mac, I said, I'm going to become a vegetarian. And he looked at me, and he said, are you kidding? He said, well, don't expect me to become a vegetarian. He said, I'm a vegan. So for the next 6 months at our house, we had a vegetarian living with a vegan, and I gained 15 pounds. There is a lot of vegetarian junk food out there. So I reevaluated. And I read about what's being a vegan all about. And philosophically, I thought, oh, well, I think that being a vegan is really what I'm after. And so, boom, I became a vegan. So, being a vegan, among other things, means you give up cheese. And I had been eating cheese for 50 plus years. So unless you're lactose intolerant, I want you to really appreciate what being a vegan means. So unless your very best vegan friend is Liz Martin, who makes really good vegan cheese, you are out of luck. So, but I digress. So now we've got a vegan living with a vegan. How does that work? Well, actually it works pretty well. Mac shops for his own meat and cheese products. Sometimes we prepare our meals separately. Oftentimes we eat our meals separately, and oftentimes we eat them together. It depends on the ingredients. But it's as simple as that. We actually get along pretty well. When we eat out, Mac will always peruse the menu, looking for vegan-friendly options before he ever chooses his own meal. When choosing a restaurant, we always make certain that it's vegan-friendly. And we'll often go to vegan restaurants. I have to say, Mac is pretty perfect that way. All right, he's pretty perfect in other ways. But for sure, he's perfect in picking out restaurants. Our family and friends are awesome too. I often feel a bit catered to, with special dishes being made just for me. Family members are considerate of my vegan preferences. That's not to say I've never been asked, where do I get my protein, or quizzed about my food options. I just take it in stride and use it as an opportunity to educate and spread the word about how much healthier I am and how much better I feel being vegan. I realize we all have choices. That's the beauty of our lives, and diversity is what brings us all together here at South Valley. I choose to be vegan. Mac and others choose to be megans. Others vegetarian, some gluten-free, some are paleo. Choices and dietary restrictions abound in our world. I think what is key here is honoring each other and each other's choices in the foods we eat. Mac and I are at opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to eating. But we love one another and we honor one another's choices. I will admit it isn't always easy, but it's worth it to us. I still have my soapbox, however. I'm going to challenge each of you to try just one little thing. If you want, you can think of it as a personal favor to me. Try going for 1 day a week without eating any meat. I'm not going to go so far as to ask you to give up your eggs and dairy products, although that would be perfectly wonderful too. If 1 day is too much, try one meal. I promise you, giving up any amount of meat is going to be saving the lives of countless cows, pigs, chickens, fish, and wild game. It will also be reducing greenhouse gas emissions, saving water and fuel. Thanks to Susan, we know how much. It becomes a trickle-down effect, and the more that participate, the greater the effect. I do love animals. All animals. I don't want to eat them. I care about all of you and respect your choices. Thanks for giving me this time today.
If you all please now open your hymnals to page 21. If you open to page 417, we would all do a reading about For the Beauty of the Earth. Let's sing For the Beauty of the Earth. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
thank everyone the many people who made this service possible. Some of you who stepped in very last minute, and I appreciate that greatly. As we depart one from another, by James A. Howard. As we depart one from another, let our hearts be secure through every human season. Let our hearts be secure in seasons of anguish as in seasons of joy, in seasons of failure as in seasons of success, in seasons of uncertainty as in seasons of security. Let our hearts be secure in this dual reality. We are of love we cannot earn. Hearts know and understand and will respond if invited in. Thank you.